very proud to introduce my next guest to you, the champion of champions, Mr. Ravi Shastri. Haven't spoken to the news media in a while, other than the press conference.
Other than the press conference.
Have you been avoiding us?
3 months in Australia,
Yes.
in New Zealand. It's a long tour. Sometimes you need a break. Sometimes you need to just shut up when the cricket's doing the talking.
You feel the cricket is doing the talking right now? Could it be any clearer?
Could it be anything else? Because, they played fabulous cricket.
Yes.
It's been one awesome year. That's the last year. We've got to start all over again very soon. But, the boys can be proud of what they achieved in that 1 year, They learned a lot from their mistakes, in South Africa and England, whatever few there were. And made the most of it in Australia, where I thought they were just brilliant.
You actually compared the Australia series win to your World Cup win from the 80s.
Yeah.
Some people said you might have overstated that.
Not at all, because I'm speaking for myself.
Okay.
Because I was the only bloke in the dressing room on all 3 occasions. In the sense, I was part of the World Cup squad, I was part of the 1985 World Championship in Australia, and then I was part of this side, as a head coach when we won the series in Australia. See, you went to Australia as the number 1 team in the world, in Test match cricket. And then to go and beat them there after 71 years, 71, it just goes to show how hard it is to beat Australia in Australia. And the reason I rated it that high was because it's the purest and the toughest form of the game, and in that, to go out there as a number 1 team and then play like a number 1 team, more importantly than anything else, and win the series it was a different kind of feeling, I'm not generalizing that statement, I'm speaking for myself, because I know what I felt 83, I know what I felt in 85, and then I know the volume of this performance and how I felt.
So obviously, this is right now the number 1 side. But do you believe this is the best travelling side we've had in the country, in the history of the game?
Close to, if not the best. Okay. I would say so, across all formats, mind you.
Across all formats?
Yeah, I'm not saying one format. These days, if you are a cricketer, you are playing for your country, the team per se has to do well in all formats. Because in our country, you have to win. Or at least you've got to be consistent. You've got to win more than you lose, that's for sure. So if you look at what this team has done overseas in the last 5 years, it's unbelievable. And I tribute to the players because, where haven't you won? You won one-day series in South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia.
We've always been a country for great batsmen. We've churned out the best in the world. But in this particular side, we've had a great bowling lineup as well. Do you believe that we might have the best bowling lineup as well?
Well, the way they bowled last year, if you look for sheer variety, you would say they were brilliant. To take 137 wickets, amongst the 3 of them in over 12 months is a massive achievement. And the only way you win Test matches is if you can take 20 wickets.
Yes.
So the reason why we've had, like you mentioned, great batsmen in the past, the reason why we haven't been that successful, because of the inability to take 20 wickets. That's the bottom line. You want to win Test matches, take 20. And that's exactly what they did.
You said in this country you have to win at least consistently. Do you believe it's a thankless job?
It can be because, you have to win.
Is the country tough? Tough on the
Oh
team,
yeah,
tough on the players?
I would say they're very sentimental. There are pockets in India that can be very sentimental. Like if you go in the East, they're die-hard fans of the Indian cricket team. And they take it to heart.
Yes.
If you lose.
Yes.
They feel sorry for the team. At the same time,
They're
say
upset.
no. They're upset. Because they're obsessed with the game, which in a way is good because then as a player you know what the expectations are. And you can't drop your guard. You have to get that A game day in and day out.
But this is something you've seen personally in your whole career, right? You've seen the entire country cheer, you've seen the entire country boo, and you've seen it then as a commentator and now as coach manager. Is it more difficult now with the advent of social media? Because the boys can get trolled in person. People can say really mean things to them in person based on a performance.
Chalk and cheese, the kind of pressure that was there in my time, and the pressure on the players now. Because, they're in the face of everyone all the time. They're public property, whether you like it or not. So, there's no place to hide. Especially when you're playing at home, the game's that big. And with the television now taking the game everywhere, like you mentioned, social media, so they have to be very aware of all that. And yet at the same time, be great ambassadors for the country and play cricket the way it should be played and within the rules.
What's your advice to the younger players who pass, they get hit by this wall of fame and money and criticism all at once. What advice do you give them?
My advice is never forget what's taken you there.
Okay.
The day you forget reminding yourself what's taken you there, that's when the problems will start. But if you remind yourself every day, why am I here? What have I done right? What has taken me there? Then the bottom line you will realize is it's the game of cricket and how hard you worked, the sacrifices you made as a youngster to achieve what you did. So don't forget that, because once you're on the road, once you've achieved success, you look too far ahead, you forget what's under your nose. And what's under your nose is the basics.
Are you tough on them?
If the work ethics are not right.
So you haven't been afraid of dropping a player for a few matches if you feel that he's not on his A game at a particular time. You tell him to go back into the nets and
Absolutely.
And get it right?
Because the bottom line, whatever you're doing, it's not personal. You're doing it in the interest of the team. And that's the difference if you see now. You go and ask people around the world. Yes, there'll be a Virat Kohli, there'll be a Rohit Sharma, there'll be a Shikhar Dhawan, there's a Dhoni in the side, there might be the fast bowler. But they talk about the Indian cricket team and how well they're playing. Which, earlier you could have names, how well this player is playing. Or if you look at India, it's Tendulkar or a Kumble or a Dravid. Now they're saying an Indian team collectively out there, it looks like a team that smelled blood and is playing in that fashion.
There's also been criticism about the aggression. There's a very aggressive team on the field. Virat Kohli himself is fairly aggressive. Is that something you encourage?
Absolutely.
You do?
Play within the rules. Why not?
But, the
I'm
whole
not out there
a
to
gentleman's game anymore.
I'm not out there to play carom. Okay?
I'm
there to win and play it hard and within the rules. Okay? It's a tough sport. It's a tough world out there.
No,
within the rules.
Within the rules.
You can't do all that because you'll be immediately. You have a match referee now.
Yes.
You have television now, so you got to be careful. Where to draw the line. But what I like is more than the aggression. Which it shows. It comes across as aggression, but it's intent.
Right.
So whatever you do it with intent. But don't take a backward step. Yeah, if you tell me something and I feel I have to improve my vocabulary, I will let you know I can speak too.
So there was a time, of course, when we didn't have mic stumps. The mics in the stump where everything was being recorded and you could listen.
Yeah.
The audience could actually hear what people were saying. Now we're privy to what happens on the field. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, as long as you know the mic is there, then you know where to draw the line. It has its positives, it has its negatives, but as long as you're aware, that mic is up there, you got to be careful where to draw the line.
True. But you do encourage the boys to be aggressive in personality. What is your, the pep talk that you give them in the dressing room?
It's more than aggressive is you're going out there to take the game forward. You're going there with a fearless mindset, which is trusting your instincts and going out there and playing to win. That is the key. So if you go out in that manner, then you'll see the intensity. And then when you have a captain who leads from the front, then it's like a disease. It spreads around the team. When you see his passion, what he brings to the game is unbelievable.
So let's talk about him. It's very interesting. He actually was the one who brought in this entire idea of perhaps super fitness into cricket. Changed the way we were selecting players. A lot of, your sort of return to the team depended on the relationship that you had between the two of you. Describe that relationship to me. What's that like right now in the dressing room and when you travel together?
See, because we're very similar in our mindset. We're both aggressive in our thinking, and which leads on to how the team plays. Emphasis on work ethics, where no one can drop guard. Yeah. You got to be proper with your work ethics.
What does that mean? Give me
Means
an
your
example.
preparation. You can't
Can't be late.
Oh, impossible. Punctuality is one of the number one things in our list. If you're late, the bus will just leave. You got to take a cab and come. But it doesn't happen. These guys are very conscious. They're very professional, and I hardly have to say anything at a time because they know the ground rules, and they know I know where to draw a line with them, and they know where to draw a line with me. It's very clear.
You were famously the play hard, party hard cricketer.
I don't know about the party hard, but play hard, yes. Party hard. Well,
infamous. But this is. Do you allow these guys to have a beer or to
they can
party?
do what they want.
The night before
After
match.
playing hours, they can do what they want.
After playing hours, they can do whatever they want.
But what they must understand is their responsibilities. What they must understand is looking at the bigger picture, who they're playing for, who their fans are. There are a lot of youngsters, who want to emulate these people. So they're heroes to many people.
Yes.
So with that comes the responsibility. And then if you're aware, you know what to do. That's why if you see, this is one of the most disciplined lots you'll ever get.
So actually that brings me to the question about Rahul and Pandya and what happened with them on the television show. There was a lot of criticism of the fact that maybe BCCI handled that badly. Did you think they were being too hard on them?
See, my reaction to that was they needed a rap on the knuckles.
Okay.
Okay, very, very clear, because what was said, what was played out, they just for a moment forgot that they're part of an Indian cricket team. So that's why the rap on the knuckles, which could have been anything. But you can't book them for anything, can you, legally? We've had guys who have played against us. Like Ben Stokes had a criminal assault case going on in London, and a high-profile case.
Right.
Well, he played the test match against us. Then they gave him leave to go and attend the hearing, and he came back and played. So, but I thought at the end of it all, it was handled well.
Were you giving them advice during that entire process?
I was asked.
Yes.
I was asked, a couple of times what I thought about it, which I don't want to divulge here, but which I told them. But I thought in the end it was, what you didn't want was it to drag.
Yes.
For no rhyme or reason, You take action, the sentence is suspended at the moment, so I'm sure they're going to sit down and decide, what is to be done. But I'm glad, they're both back in the side.
Do you feel that...
And it would make them wiser.
Yes.
They would have learned a lot from that, which is good. You're bound to make mistakes in life, and you're bound to be punished at times. But that's not the end of the world. You come back stronger, you come back harder, you come back wiser.
Do you feel perhaps if the BCCI is going to pull up players for oversteps like this one, that there should also be sensitization workshops, they should be actually told what they can and cannot say, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, given that they're so in the public eye? Is that
I think it's all in the pipeline. It's okay. All been discussed. I'm sure what you're saying will happen because it's needed. Because it's very high profile, this sport now. You're very much in the faces of, all ages. When you look at people, all ages watch this sport. So, it will help, because some guys are very young. They just come out from nowhere, and in a year's time, they're playing the IPL, the exposure to the razzmatazz is that much that sometimes, you don't know how to handle it. So, if you have those clinics that take place, or even if there's a handbook in place that reminds them, what are the do's, don'ts, at the same time, what the repercussions can be. See, when you have those things in place, I'm sure they're not school kids. They'll know what to do.
I want to come back to the fact that you had a fairly flamboyant career yourself. If someone goes back and reads about what was being written about you, you were tall, you were from South Mumbai, you know a lot of people in Bollywood, they called you a ladies' man. Does the team still refer to instances and stories about your past? Is that locker room talk as well?
Not really, because if you look at this age group,
yes,
I think most of them weren't born at that time.
Sure.
A lot of them had just, they were in that, I would say, they were in single figures growing up. So I don't think they'll really remember. But about hearing, I'm sure they would have.
Yeah.
Because it was out there, for everyone to read, like you said. I read a few things too, which surprised me.
Really?
I didn't know, I had that side of me, or I didn't know if it actually existed, but
You're denying everything now?
No, I'm not denying. Did I deny anything?
20 years
I'm the
later.
last person to deny. I just take it in my stride.
Okay.
Bottom line is you have to play,
Yes.
and go with the flow.
Well, I do want to take you back a little bit to when you started your career. You started in college. You started playing in school. At what point did you decide that you want to pursue cricket as a career, or pursue it seriously?
Very late, actually. I was in my 9th or 10th standard in Don Bosco's. And that was a school famous for hockey, football, volleyball, you name everything else but cricket.
Yes.
And they started a cricket team when I was in the 8th or 9th standard. And there was this coach of mine, and I used to play tennis in school. And I used to hit with both hands. So he saw me, and he thought, this guy is ambidextrous. So he said, have you played cricket? I said, of course I played cricket, gully cricket at home. Is that? He said, no, you come and join the cricket team because, you tell me you bat right-handed and you bowl left-handed. You could be an asset to our team. So I started playing cricket. So I got into the team, the Giles Shield team. We lost the final in the first year. Second year, I captained the side and we won the final.
Yes.
And from there on, it was cricket because my parents were both professionals. My father was a doctor. My mother was a professor in university. So, the inclination would be you either become a doctor or you do something in something, maybe be a professional, when it came to studies and things of that sort. But when they saw me performing the way I did at school level, they said, why not, carry on even in college. So I joined a college which was very good for cricket, which was Podar, which was just across the road in Matunga from my school, Wadala to Matunga. And I was part of the team. Second year of college, I played for Bombay. Third year of college, I played for India. In fact, I had to come back from New Zealand and give my BCom exams, which my parents insisted that I have to be a graduate.
Would you insist that of your daughter as well?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely. Because, you don't realize the importance of education at that time. But it stands you in good stead, right through your life. It helps you balance things out. That kind of exposure that you get, even graduating, is a massive help later on in your life.
I understand your mother is a big fan of, or is always a big fan of cricket, and she always had an opinion or two about your performance on the field. Does she still, when you come home now, does she still have notes for you?
Oh, you should have won that game. Critical means the pressure starts there. The pressure starts at home.
So it's a thankless job at home.
Yeah, because I'll tell you a story. I came back late one night. Bombay were playing Baroda in the Ranji Trophy. And gone out partying somewhere. And
is this that match?
yes, and I came back at about 12:31, maybe later. So she opened the door.
Yes.
And as the door opened, there used to always be a clock in my place right bang opposite the door. So she opened the door and she looked. She pointed out to the clock. I said, it's okay. So I said, anyway, keep some idlis on the table in the morning or some dosas. I have to leave at 8 for the game. So I got up, ate something, went. I came back that evening. She asked me, what happened? Said, nothing, I got out for 4 or 5 or something. Said, yeah, that's what will happen. If you come at that time, that's what will happen. And I packed my bags and I went straight to the airport because I was joining the team for the test match in Madras at that time, Chennai. And she went to a Belpuri wala down the road. And that guy told her, तुम्हारा बेटा ने तो कमाल कर दिया आज यार. Because I'd got 200,
yes,
which is still today the fastest 200, and I had hit 6 sixes.
6 sixes.
And then when she put on the news, Doordarshan, those days at 7, it was all over. 7 o'clock news. Then she called me in Chennai. You got out for 3? I said, that's what happens when you come at a particular time. So, the sledging was always
on.
Always on. But that's a true story.
What's her feedback about your work now, about your team now?
No, she's very proud. She's always been very proud, of what you achieved. But one thing with my parents, they were real disciplinarians, especially my father. Father was, and he's my hero. He's no more, but he'll always be my hero. As a doctor, and the way he encouraged, me to play the game, and they've been brilliant. When you look at, you can't ask for anything more. As from parents, they were fantastic.
In fact, you've told a story about how when you were asked, when your beer bottle was confiscated by the warden, you said, I drink with my father.
Where did you hear that? Yeah, it's true. But it's true. It was, I was an under-19 captain at that time. And, we used to live in what is now the Bangalore dressing room.
Yes.
So, you had home and away, so one lot would stay in one and the other one. Yeah, we were having beer, a couple of guys, when the warden came in and he said, what is that? I said, it's there in front of you, see. So he said, this is lager beer. You know what you're doing, you're not allowed to do this. I said, no, but I'm doing it now, what? Huh? So he took the bottle. I said, hang on, give me that bottle. There was half the bottle still there. I said, I made sure I poured it in my glass. I said, take an empty bottle. So no one takes a bottle. Even if there are 2 drops there, it's wasted. So he went and he complained. So I was summoned up, and by the authorities, they asked me what. I said, listen, I was having a beer. I drink beer with my father. He's the man I respect most in this world. He has no issues. I mean, if it affects my cricket, then I know I've got to stop it. But otherwise, that's my take on it.
Same rules for the boys now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this day and age, each one knows his responsibility. That's what I keep harping. I'm not a professor there or a school principal. Your job is to put them in the best mental space to be able to go out and play the game how we want them to play.
So do they also reach out to you, when you're not playing, but they just need advice? Are you more of you've said big brother to them. Is it big brother all year round?
Yeah, it happens very often. I'd see, even when I was not in the job for about 9-10 months, I was doing television. So I'd bump into all these guys, wherever I was. So every now and then, there would be guys coming up and asking me, what do you think? Everything okay? Can I do something different? So when you've been with the setup that long, the guys for that long, and I mean, when you're on the road 250, 300 days of the year, there is some sort of chemistry, that sets in. 250,
300 days in the year, do you feel we're playing too much cricket? Is there such a thing as too grueling a schedule?
I think so. But that's being adjusted now. In the FTP that comes up after the World Cup, I think it's a lot lesser, which is good because, it balances things out. And the tours are not that long. So if we go to Australia, we'll go only for a test series. We'll go the following year for a one-day series. So it's not going to Australia, playing a test series, playing a T20 series, playing a one-day series, then from there going to New Zealand. No, that's not the case now. So it's home, away, a lot more.
Do you believe perhaps there's also been some criticism about the wives and the girlfriends traveling with the team? Do you think that's distracting? Do you think perhaps it's just offensive to the women to call them distracting?
I think you can draw a line there. You can definitely draw a line. And the players know. If it's going to affect their performances, they will take the decision. In this day and age, you've got to be practical. When you see the amount of time they spend away from home, I mean, you've got to be practical there.
Yeah.
Yes, if it's a big event real big event like a World Cup or a big tournament where you need, the boys to be absolutely focused, 24/7, then it's different. But otherwise, this day and age, you've got to be practical and be a little open-minded, when you think of that.
Do you think, again, that there might be too much criticism or nitpicking criticism at this team in terms of, the wives are traveling with them or something else or something? It's just, is the press too hard on the team?
To be honest, we're not bothered.
Okay.
Absolutely not bothered. I mean, each one knows his responsibility. They know that when they're traveling, they know their commitment is to the game first. And they're not on a picnic or a holiday. They're aware of that. They're not kids anymore. So, criticism will come. You take that on the chin. There was also, there was a lot of controversy created between Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni in the same team, that perhaps they have different methods and different sort of formats of captaining, and that would clash. Was that something that you had to personally manage, or was it entirely something the press cooked up? No two people can be the same. Each one has his own style. And each one is different. And when you mention Virat and MS, yes, they're different. The way they play, the way they captain sides. But make no mistake, the mutual respect for each other there is massive. So as much as the media wants to cook up something, I tell them, please be my guest. Because I know what's happening in that dressing room. MS was the senior man. When Virat was coming through the ranks, Virat gave him the respect he deserved. Now, MS is not the captain, Virat's the captain. He does the same thing. So the mutual respect for each other is massive there. And that's all you want as a coach, really. There was also controversy about your appointment as coach, because the fact that Anil Kumble perhaps didn't have that relationship with Kohli. A lot of people said Kohli's relationship with you was perhaps the center point of that appointment. Do you agree with the controversy or what was written about at that time, or do you think that... I didn't even know. To be honest, didn't even know. I was doing commentary. Till all this went up in the air, and then there were fresh applications asked for. When the first time the applications were put out, I didn't even apply. It's when the second time came, when they asked for applications, then I thought, there's seem to be some problems there, but I will apply again, and let's see. And you believe that the work has spoken for itself now? What can you ask? When I took over the job first time round, we were 7, 6, 5 in the rankings. In a couple of years, they were 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, and they're still maintaining that. You can't ask for more from a side. If you look at consistency, if you look at the last 4, 5 years, the amount of cricket that's been played, amount of matches that have been won, I would think they're in the plus 75% ratio when it comes to winning and losing. And you can't ask for anything more. Because it's sport, you're bound to win some, you're bound to lose some. But when you have a strike rate that's in excess of 75, close to 80, it's massive. They should be proud. Yes. The penny will drop when they finish their cricket. I keep telling them. You keep coming back to the team, and you say it's the team's work. Yeah. But the truth is, as coach, there's a lot of this is also about you being able to sort of line up a team that perfectly complements each other. What have you done differently? What have you changed? I don't think I've done anything differently. I with my support staff, I must give them huge credit as well. The way they've gone about their job. They made it easier for me, easier for the players. And when I played the game, the way I thought about captaining a side, when I captained a side, the same thing goes when you're as a coach. It's you want to put those players in the best mental frame of mind. So one of the questions that keeps getting asked is a comparison between Virat Kohli and Sachin Tendulkar. Is that a fair comparison? Do you want to take a stab at that? I've always believed I do not compare eras. Okay. If there's one man who stands out literally, it's because of sheer performances and average, it's Sir Donald Bradman. Because he was so far ahead of his own generation at that time. But you cannot compare generations. Sobers in his time was the best cricketer in the world. But there are a lot of similarities between the two. The work ethics, the sacrifice, the wanting to dominate when they're out there in the middle, just the pursuit for excellence, the sacrifices they make is the determination, the concentration, that goes in, the sheer passion for the sport. It's all there, Kohli and Tendulkar. Very, very similar. And Sachin got runs everywhere, and so is Virat now. And the thing with both of them is they're huge role models for kids. Huge. So when you have a level of performance that high, then you're obviously going to be compared. But then, like I said, it's each one to his generation. Now, where Virat is standing out a little more, in the sense, in this period of, say, the last 2-3 years, he's clearly the number one batsman in the world across all formats, which is never easy. Even if you look at the ICC awards this year, it's a total cleanup, which is testimony to his individual brilliance as a player across all formats and the team he's playing with. He's fully aware why there are a couple of awards there. It's because the team has played that well. So, he's captaining the side, he's captaining a very good team.
Virat Kohli, shockingly turned vegan. And that was, a lot of people turned around and said, but as a sports person, where will you get your protein? How can you suddenly change your diet? What was your reaction? Red-blooded Punjabi guy suddenly says, I'm vegan.
Nothing changed on the field in Australia. There was nothing changed. That passion was there, that aggression was there.
Was this something he was discussing with you, or did he just walk up to you one day and say...
But, that is amazing mindset.
Okay.
Amazing willpower to be able to do it. And like you said, from the north, he would have eaten, everything every day of his life. And then to suddenly give it up and, follow a path. Unbelievable. His work ethics.
But did he walk up to you and say, you know what, I've just turned vegan one morning? Or was this something you discussed? It was part of strategy?
No, he just said, I'm become vegetarian. That's it. And vegan, yeah.
And did you question that when it happened?
No, absolutely not. Because it's an individual choice. How can you question that? I remember the difference between the two tours. We would be out a lot having dinner. All the
Yes.
meat would disappear in the various restaurants. On this tour of Australia, it was much less because the food habits were different. But you still went out. And
were there other members of the team who have also followed now?
I wouldn't know. Because we have a lot of vegetarians in our side. A lot of people from the south are vegetarians. So it's not that he's the only one there. There are quite a few in the support staff as well as within the team.
Virat, obviously, and I brought this up once before, he's changed the way cricketing fitness, or the expectation of cricketing fitness. It was never at the level that he's brought it at. Again, is the rest of the team now, are they expected to be at that level, or are they pushing themselves because he's a role model?
Combination of both.
Okay.
What they've realized is why is they're asking themselves, they should be asking themselves the question, why has he raised the bar that much? See, when you play at that level, you have the talent. You bound to have the talent, otherwise you can't be 11 out of 1.2 billion, playing for the country. Talent is there. But then, if you take that level of fitness to the level he's taken, what will surprise you is where you take your level of play to. So, the reason, there's one thing being a good team, one thing being a great team. So what this team strives for is being a great team. And I will say that openly. I'm a coach of a great Indian team across all formats.
Tell me, when you're traveling together, what's a day like in the life of the team? When you're
long
all
hours, very long hours, because, and I'll tell you, test match cricket is killing because there's pressure,
Yes.
24-hour pressure. Like this series in Australia, We had 4 test matches. Every test went to the last day. And then you'll do well on the first day. Your day starts at about, it must be up by 6:15. You're down for breakfast. You're off to the ground, and you're not back until 7 in the night. So it's a literally 12, 13-hour day. And then the pressure, because you might have had a good 2 sessions, and then you mess it up last 1 hour. So then you're thinking right through the night. You're sleeping with that. Then you get up, we need a good session in the morning. So that pressure in Test cricket. Now you asked me that earlier, why I rate that performance that high.
Yes.
Pressure in Test cricket compares to no other format of the game because it's constant. 24 hours for 5 days, it's non-stop. You get up with pressure, you end with pressure.
It is. You said it. You believe it's.
See, in a one-day game, it's over. You win, lose in a day, you're out of there. Next destination. So even if you have played badly, forget it after a day, and you say, "Come on now, think positive. Let's go on to the next game. Try and change the result." Test match cricket, it's the relief when that last ball was bowled in the series and you had won. That feeling I know. So when people say, "Now what I said," I've been in the dressing room. It's a relief that is, unimaginable. We played one-day cricket after that, one-day series. Then went to New Zealand, chalk and cheese.
When you when you travel together and you're all in the same bus, obviously they're very different characters in every team. This team particularly, on the younger side, there's a very interesting people. Anyone there who's the fun maker or the
you get all different
class
characters
clown,
there.
the brats?
Yeah, Shikhar will be the loudest.
Okay.
Yeah, and the loudest laugh as well. This thing, and you'll get Hardik. He's not far behind. He'll be singing his own music, which the whole coach can hear. He's listening to something, but he's singing along with it. Might be reggae. But most of the boys will have their
headphones on.
Listening to music. So you might think it's very quiet, but they're all getting into their frame of mind for the game coming up.
I also want to ask you about your career and some of those stories that I'm sure so many Indians remember very clearly. Even though this was not at a time when you started off, we didn't have live television, carrying cricket matches. A lot of times it was happening at odd hours of the day in India. So people would wake up in the middle of the night to listen on the radio and then later watch on television. Your first 100, popped up in headlines across newspapers and magazines. We had Sports Center back then. It was a big magazine. What was that like? You were very young.
I was very young.
And it was a team of biggies. It was a team of legends already.
Yeah. We had a lot of big names in that team. I made my debut at 18.
Yes.
And then
in New Zealand.
In New Zealand,
yes.
and I started at number 10. And within a year and a half, I was opening the batting. When I got my first 100 in Karachi. And, it changed my life. Because I got 100 there, then went to the West Indies, got 100 in the West Indies. And then suddenly your psyche was different. You thought you could get runs anyway.
One of your headlines actually said bold and not so old.
Really?
Yes. Well, on your first 100.
Yeah, it was because it was a terrific attack.
Yes.
Pakistan had hammered us in the series. We were 3-1 down. So to get 100 against that attack, which I still rate as one of the best attacks, because I count the 2 umpires there as well.
Yes.
So it becomes even more deadlier.
Yes.
Was very, very satisfying. Extremely satisfying.
But you also faced the West Indies attack
immediately
when it was its toughest.
Oh,
really.
That was a mean machine. Let's put it that way. They were outstanding, and they wouldn't say a word. Beauty about the West Indies.
There's no smack talk on the field.
Nothing. Just a stare, but that stare was enough to make you shake in your boots. If you were not prepared for a fight, and I feel I was privileged to play against that lot.
And for a tall man like yourself, the West Indians were still taller, weren't they?
They were
big,
taller.
They were big,
I mean, I was a bigger target for them. and the difference of the cricket at that time and cricket today was there was no restriction on bounces. So they could come at your head 6 balls in an over. The protective gear was very average. Right. There was no visor, Helmets also, some players didn't wear helmets. You had these flimsy earpieces where if you got a smack there,
You bleed from the ear.
you may as well not wear it. So the game has evolved since then, but it was tough. It wasn't easy. That's why when I tell people that there's a physical element in the sport. I've felt when you played the West Indies in the 80s, you could feel that physical element, where you could be hit and hit badly by a cricket ball. Where in a lot of other sport, the damage will not be that much. Here it could be really,
devastating.
really devastating.
And a lot of it was in the mind, I assume.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Just to stand there.
No, and when you had those kind of rules, you have to think why the rules have changed, because it was intimidating. Can you imagine 6 balls you're fending off your face? And if you're not in the right place for one, it could be a nasty injury.
So again, we have a lot of viewers who are very young, who don't know the racer bullet and the chapati shot. How do you come up with it? And
yes, in my years through commentary, no, chapati, I think.
Chapati was your shot.
It was my shot, but I think Sunny called it the chapati shot because it was like a bread and butter for me. See, those days, again, it comes to fast bowling. Everything was at the rib cage. So I've found the best way to score runs from there is to use the pace.
Right.
So get into a good position, use the pace and flick it fine anywhere, between square leg. It gave you a lot of runs. So they called it the chapati shot because it was my bread and butter. So,
and it was unstoppable, they say.
it
Straight
got
to
me a lot of
the
runs,
bottom.
so I don't complain at all. Tracer bullet in commentary, this game, because I think there was a war going on in Iraq, when Americans went into Iraq, and even between Iraq and Kuwait, something happened.
Afghanistan.
And a lot of Scud missiles going.
Yes.
So I've often in commentary referred, that's taken off like a Scud, 6 more, and then tracer bullet came because of the Scud. It's a bullet, it's gone like a tracer to the fence. So, that you can't prepare.
Yeah.
It just comes.
I think for a lot of India's 20-year-olds or 25-year-olds, you're the voice of cricket right now. Between you and Sunil Gavaskar, these are the voices they've probably grown up on. Are you going to go back to commentary when you're done with your stint?
I'm not done yet.
You're not done
and
yet.
I have a job to finish, but
Yes.
I love television. You can always go back there. I've had a lot of fun there. Done it for 24 years, 24 years. And some of the greatest moments of Indian cricket. You're lucky to be in and see it. And it's, when there's a big game going on or a big final going on, it's brilliant. When you have the crowd on the edge of their seats and you're trying to build up the...
So if you had to pick
the game
between being in the dressing room, being on the field, or being in the commentary box when there's a big game, big crowd, which one did you love the most? Which one do you love the most?
All, to be honest. But the pressure I find, when you're a coach is maximum. And the reason I say it is when you played the game, you had a bat in your hand and a ball in your hand. So you could control your destiny to an extent. When you're doing television, you have the mic in your hand. So again, you can control things. But when you are a coach, you can only prepare the boys, then because you have nothing. Once they're out on the field, they've got to take it. So even those last 2 wickets in Melbourne, when it started raining in the morning, I had ants in my pants. I said, no, man, because in 1986...
Is that the expression you're going with now, ants in your pants? As opposed to the others you've used on them?
No. But because I knew how big that was, We came close in 86 when I was a player. We should have won that test match, which would have helped us to win the series. But with about 40 runs needed, at just 10 minutes after tea, with 2 hours to go, we were cruising. We had 8 wickets in hand. The heavens opened.
Yes.
And it rained for 2.5 hours, and the match was called off, and there was bright sunshine after that for the next 2 hours till 9 o'clock at the MCG. So when this happened again, on the last day, when we had taken 8 wickets, and we lost 2.5 hours of play, 2.5, 3 hours. So during that time, I don't think I sat. And once play started, you just wanted it over and done with. And luckily it happened in 20 minutes.
I know that your mother keeps a scrapbook of all of the newspaper cuttings.
She used to at that
She used
time.
to.
Yeah.
Does she? And I'm sure she has a copy of that one photograph, the Audi, with the wicketkeeper on top of it. It said "Champion of Champions."
Yeah, I'll never forget that, because I think Ian Chappell was interviewing me. He had called me for the interview for being the player of the series. And as I was about, and I had the key in my hand, he said he gave the key and he said,
Yes.
And he was about to ask me the first question, and I heard laughter and, everything back. So I turned around. The whole team was inside the car, some on the boot of the car, and there was one bloke, Sadanand Vishwanath, the wicketkeeper. He was on top of the car with his spikes on.
So he scratched it up.
Yeah, it wasn't a mess. But I turned around, I said, Chapali, interview can hold. I went, started the car, and, I saw there was a little bit of gas, in the petrol in the car. So I just started it and took it for a spin around the MCG.
Did the groundsman have a complete breakdown that you were driving a car inside of?
Absolutely, we had no choice. It had already started. So, I tell people, I said, you guys, have you played at the MCG? Yeah, I said, yeah, you drive the ball through the covers, right? I said, I've driven a ball through the covers, I've driven a ball down the ground, I've also driven a car.
But that was big, and it was flamboyant. It was the first time India saw a car like that.
Yeah.
Did you still get goosebumps every time you think about it?
Absolutely. I mean,
When it was brought into the port.
I mean, that footage, the recall factor of that footage is unbelievable.
Yes.
Anywhere I go around the world, they will ask about the Audi, that moment, when the whole team was sitting. That it's in their minds, it's etched in their minds, that generation that watched that. It was unbelievable. And I remember, I sure knew I was in the running for that car because I'd had a great tournament. And just after the semi-final, there was a meeting, right, to discuss what happens if someone gets the car. Yeah, what happens?
Whether or not you decide, whether the team shares it or whether you get to keep it as an
so
individual.
there was a discussion. Some said share it. Some said no, whoever gets it should keep it. And they came to me. I said, if I win it, I will only share the stepney of the car. The car is coming back with me, right? I said, because all these years there have been fridges, air conditioned, televisions there. Whoever has won that has kept that.
Taken it home.
Huh. So just because this is a car, no one ain't getting nothing. I said, that is coming home with me. And luckily I didn't have to pay duty. Prime Minister, then Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, he made sure waived all duties.
Still have the car?
Yes, it's still lying with Audi in the showroom because you can't drive it now.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm still very much with them.
When was
I
the
drive only Audis. The last time it came out was last year, when we brought it out when the A6 was launched, the new A6. So they brought it out because it was comparable to the A6 of that time. That was top of the line at that time.
Yes.
So it's unbelievable how when I saw that baby, and then I saw the new A6, it was, how technology
has changed.
has evolved. Yeah.
You played. You've played with a range of Indian legends, but I personally want to ask you about Kapil Dev. What was he like when you started off? When you played together?
He was a dada. Let's put it that way. I have not seen a more natural cricketer than him. Whether it was batting, bowling, fielding, it is as if the game came so easily to him. And plus the talent.
And what was he like in person? Tell us some stories.
No, he was very inspirational. He was on top of his game. A terrific competitor. Wanted to compete against the best in the world. And it was that kind of attitude that he had, helped the team win the World Cup. Because, he had that great belief, that ability to lift the team up and then go and win a match single-handed against Zimbabwe, where we were down and out. And then to go and play the way he did. Plus, just his records. If you see that record on Indian tracks to take, close to 300 wickets is no joke. 434 in all, but and then plus when you see the way he fielded, the number of catches, the number of runs he got.
You've said in previous interviews that you were disappointed you didn't get a longer opportunity as captain when you were playing.
I wouldn't say that is not in your hand. But, one thing for sure, I would have been ruthless. No question about that. Because you played to win. Whenever you captain Bombay or West Zone, there was a high price tag on playing to win.
Did you need at that point, in your opinion, to be ruthless on the field or ruthless in the boardrooms where the decisions were being made?
No, on the field, in your mindset. That's not in your control. On the field, things are in your control. So if you think, in a way you think, then you can spread that amongst your teammates. And that's why, one of the best moments of my life as a cricketer was when we won the Ranji Trophy in 1994 with a very young team. Because all the big boys were playing for India. And barring me and another bloke, I don't think anyone had played even 10 matches for Mumbai. And then to go through that year and win the Ranji Trophy was special. And I also knew that was it.
How do you know that was it?
I knew. Because I played for a year after being injured.
Yes.
And I realized that this level I can play another 2-3 years easy. But at that level, very difficult. And I didn't want to drop standards. I knew the standards I'd set when I was playing for India. And I didn't want to play below that. So I said, time to leave. And luckily, television exploded onto the scene and you just moved from the dressing room into the commentary box.
Back to the dressing room.
And back to the dressing room, right.
This is going to be a slightly difficult question. There is an appeal now that India not play Pakistan, even in the World Cup. There's a further appeal now that ICC drop Pakistan from the World Cup or India won't play at all. Where do you stand personally on this?
I think that I'll entirely leave it to the BCCI and the government because they know what's happening. They know exactly what's happening. And they will take a call. And you will go with whatever the government says. As simple as that.
And if the decision is not to play the World Cup, you'd be okay with that?
If the government says it's that sensitive, you don't need to play the World Cup, I will go with my government.
Is the team all prepped, ready for the World Cup? Mentally, are you
Absolutely.
there yet? Do you believe that there's room in this team right now for changes, for younger people, or you would set with the lineup you have?
More or less, the nucleus of the team is there. But you can never discount injuries, last minute. So, you always have to have the eye on the ball. You got to have only 15 allowed for the World Cup, but you've got to have about 18, 20 in the mix.
Do you, and I want to ask you about a couple of other teams. The under-19 team is doing brilliantly well as well. Do you have regular conversations with Rahul Dravid? Are you looking for talent, or there is some talent that's
regular?
To your team?
In fact, I always ask him, who's ready?
He's running a school for you.
Yeah, and brilliant. I mean, what better for the boys than having someone like him, mentoring them and advising them, especially at the ages they are A team or under 19. And he's been very fair, to be honest. This guy needs some more time, or this guy's ready. And then I said, bring him on if there's an injury or something.
The women's team is doing brilliantly well as well.
And I'm damn happy for that because
have you been tracking their progress?
And tremendous. What I like is they're getting the recognition they deserve. Women's cricket has been going on in India for many, many years. But for the first time, you get the feeling they're getting the recognition they deserve. And they're playing damn good cricket. You can see with the exposure they're getting more and more confident as individuals and as a team. And I won't be surprised if very soon they're not the best team in the world. I really won't be surprised because there's talent there.
In the women's team, who have you noticed as talent?
I mean, you've seen the performance of Harmanpreet. Mithali has done a great job over the years. And there's Smriti Mandhana, who's playing magnificent. She's the number one player in the world now in one-day internationals. And you can see the talent there. I mean, the ability to strike the ball and hit those sixes and time it through the covers is terrific.
Are you concerned with the entire IPL coming up that the players might overdo it or cause
Always a concern.
Really? Okay.
It'll always be a concern because, the last thing you want is, 10 days to go, 2 weeks to go for the team to leave for the World Cup. Someone gets injured. So, you're back of your mind. I'll be lying if I say I'm not on the edge of my seat there. I'll be watching every game closely.
Because for that entire stretch, they're no longer in your sort of custody. They're with other teams.
But that's why they'll be told, any niggle, please report. Don't sit over it. Because, then whatever action has to be taken, the BCCI can take it. Which means even if we have to pull out a player,
But sometimes they might not tell you out of fear that they get pulled out from the World Cup.
No, because then they are the losers. Because if something drastic happens, anyway they'll be out. So you rather fix it. Otherwise, they carry on playing, they aggravate it, you'll see it. So that is always on the back of my mind. It's a worry.
So you'll be watching the IPL nervous for a completely different.
No, like a hawk. Yeah, and nervous for other reasons. Yeah,
for other reasons.
Absolutely, because the volume and quantity of cricket that's being played these days, and when you play for your franchisees, you're paid top dollar to get out there and give your best and perform. So I don't blame the franchisee if they want them to really go out there and give their best. But I'm seeing it. The larger picture, I'm seeing the World Cup coming up, so I will
Is
be
there
on
a lot of money riding on the top players of the Indian team? For example, if they get dropped or arrested, nobody watches that match. India needs to play a certain number of matches in a tournament in order to just bring the eyeballs and the advertising.
Yeah,
and
I know
fill the
that, but they're
stadiums.
human.
Yeah.
People jolly well realize they're human. You can't send them to a petrol pump, put rocket fuel and tell them to go out and play every day. No. They need to be rested, every now and then, so that they can play all formats of the game. And which means you got to have a bigger pool, not just 15. Oh, if the same 15 has to play all 3 formats right through the year, I promise you'll have 6 or 7 able to stand on the park.
There's a lot of disagreement and decision making within the BCCI. A lot of it is wound up in Supreme Court, in fact. Do you believe there needs to be an overhauling of how these decisions are made?
See, there's a process happening now. It's in the court, so you don't know, what the judgment is going to be or what not. But there's a process that's been put into place, and it'll take time, like it is. But I'm sure, and we hope, at the end of it all, there's a proper BCCI again, an elected BCCI, with proper democracy, where the voting system takes place and everyone's happy.
Is there no proper democracy now? Are decisions not being made in the best interest
No, I won't say
of the
that,
game?
but you want elections at some stage. But for that elections to happen, you have a COA in place now to overseeing that the process that has been laid out by the courts is implemented. Because if that happens, then you'll have an election and then everything moves on.
Because
even as a team,
yes.
you want a BCCI in place. I'm sure the CEO wants this to happen as quickly as possible. The members of the board also want it to happen as quickly as possible, and even the courts. So, it's a process they've been asked to follow. So, let's hope the quicker it happens, the better.
Because even in the case of Rahul and Hardik, there was a lot of, even decision making was slow. They weren't able to decide. It took a fairly long time to decide what they wanted to do, if there's going to be any punishment at all, what that punishment is going to be. And the players were hanging in the balance the entire time. There's a lot of uncertainty. Is that healthy really for players?
But the way I look at it, it's a thing of the past. And I'm happy it happened quickly.
Did it happen quickly?
Yeah, they were back playing. Okay, I mean, if I want to be really hard, I'll say, no, they should have never gone back or things of that sort. I look at the positive side of it, that they're back, they're playing. Now Rahul and Hardik, both part of the team. Hardik was already there in New Zealand.
And what is the rest of your 2019 looking like?
Rest of 2019, all focus World Cup now.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our chances?
Oh, I'll be lying if we don't think we can go the distance.
Okay.
You're not there to fill in the numbers. You're there to compete and, try and give your best performance like you've done right through the last 4-5 years.
Well, Ravi, I wish you very, very good luck. And I look forward to the fantastic
I think we all are, and thank you. Like I said, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
No injuries.